If you're stumbling around like a drunk monkey, wondering how the hell you're supposed to make it past the first chapter without getting your butt handed to you, well, guess what? You're in the right place. Today, I'm going to teach you how to get the absolute best start in the game. Turn yourself into an unstoppable spellcaster with the perfect build, and grab some kick-ass armor right from the get-go by hitting 3 mysterious bells. Oh, and we're not stopping there. I'm also going to show you how to use this build to humiliate all the bosses and cruise through the game like you own the place. I will also talk on how to improve this build in the late game. You can literally take this build all the way to the end of the game, even the armor, as you can upgrade armors later. So, brace yourself, grab your staff, and let's make this adventure beg for mercy. Now, what's the secret to beating Black Myth Wukong with ease? It's the Immobilize spell. This spell is like having a cheat code in your back pocket. The game hands it to you when you beat the first boss, and it's an absolute game changer. Why is that? Because it literally freezes any enemy in place, turning even the most terrifying foes into statues. It doesn't matter if they're twice your size or look like they've just stepped out of your worst nightmare. Once you hit them with Immobilize, they're not going anywhere. You can wail on them, set up your next move, or just take a moment to appreciate how powerful you've become. This spell is the key to turning the tables and making sure every battle goes your way. Now, the Immobilize spell doesn't last forever. It has a pretty long cooldown, and it's quite pricey on the mana. At first glance, it might not seem like the most amazing spell out there. Just a quick chance to sneak in a few free hits on a boss. But that's just the beginning. Here's the deal. If you focus on upgrading the spell and gear up with items that boost its effectiveness, you'll transform from a mere player to an unstoppable force. Suddenly, that short window of vulnerability you create with Immobilize becomes a game-breaking strategy. You'll be freezing enemies left and right, controlling the battlefield like a puppet master, and dishing out damage while your enemies are left helpless. Trust me, with the right build and gear, you'll become an unstoppable monkey warrior, breezing through the game like it's child's play. Let's kick things off with how to allocate your points. First things first, before you even think about upgrading Immobilize or any other skills, you need to max out your health. The more health you have, the more chances you get to learn from your mistakes. You can take a few hits, make some screw-ups, and still keep going strong. It's all about giving yourself as many opportunities as possible to figure out the enemy's patterns and perfect your strategy. So, pump those points into health like you're juicing up for the apocalypse, because the more you have, the longer you'll survive, and the more badass you'll become. If you think you're some kind of dodge master who can dance around every attack without breaking a sweat, then sure, go ahead and skip the health upgrades. But let's be real, if you're watching this video, it means you're probably getting smacked around a bit and could use some help. So, don't let that ego get in the way. Beef up your health and give yourself some breathing room. You'll thank me later when you're still standing after a brutal fight, while those enemies are lying on the ground wondering what the hell just happened. Now that we got enough health to survive longer, I recommend you invest into your Immobilize spell. Primarily into Crash, as this will increase the damage you deal to Immobilize enemies. You can awaken Crash 2 times, so maximize this to get more damage. Stagnation will extend the duration of the Immobilized spell. This is a must. Then go for Evanescence for even more damage and duration for your spell. Lastly is the Easy Prey that will increase the engagement distance of light attacks. If you are good at positioning yourself before you Immobilize, then you can allocate points to something else and ignore the Easy Prey. Now, we are going to focus on the martial arts, primarily on the light attack combos. No matter how you build your character, your light attacks are your bread and butter. This is the main source of damage you have, and all the combos and stances start from this skill. Every point into this tree is going to help you progress more smoothly through the game. The main skill you need to get to is Punishing Downpour. After 4 consecutive hits with the light attacks, you will do a finisher that does considerably more damage than the normal attacks. The Punishing Downpour will increase the damage even more. The problem is that you need to do this combo without being interrupted, and using the Immobilize spell will help you achieve this combo all the time. And this is it. These are all the points you need to invest in order to make this build work in the first chapter of the game. This is how the early stages of this build works. You go in and immediately Immobilize the enemy. You spam the light attacks until you do the final finisher of the combo, and then you back away. If you have unlocked other spells, I recommend you don't use them. Save up mana only for the Immobilize spell. Also, in the first hours of playing the game, you will also unlock the option to craft your first armor. Do so as it will massively give you a defensive boost. To craft armor or weapons, you need to go to any shrine and choose the craft armor option. You will also find curio, which are the equivalent to talismans. These objects can also help by either giving you an increased bonus to your main stats, more damage, stamina, or just plain old defense. If you beat Blackwind King, you will find a chest with a curio that massively increases your defense even more. Now, I will show you more advanced stages of this build at the end of this video, but for now, let's show you how you can get the armor that will improve the immobilization spell even more. To get this set armor, you will need to defeat a secret boss from Chapter 1. To unlock this area and the boss, you will need to ring 3 giant bells. Now the bells are guarded by the main quest bosses, so you might have already ringed some of them, but in case you missed them, you can always go back and ring them after. If you don't see ring the bell interaction, it means you have already done it. The first boss is Guangzhi. He will be pretty easy to defeat. Just immobilize and go for the light attack combo. He will have 2 dangerous moves. One is when he starts to spin his staff around, he will attack 2 times in front of him, and then launch himself at you. He will follow with 2 more attacks after the launch. Just try to dodge at least 2 of these attacks and you will survive. Don't try to heal yourself during this combo, as he won't give you any time, and actually do more damage to you. The second attack to look out for is when he goes into a stance with his spear on the right side. He will keep that stance for a second, and he will immediately slice towards you 2 times, one after the other. After you defeat him, you will get his transformation and the first bell to ring. Now before you even get to the second boss and bell, you will have to defeat the White Wolf Lingxuzi. A few tips I can give here is to start with the transformation you got from Guangzhi immediately. You will do fire damage, and this boss takes a lot of damage from fire. The transformation also replaces your health with the transformed creature, meaning if you are damaged when you are in the transformed form, when you turn back, you will not receive any damage. This basically gives you a second health. Another tip will be to not randomly use the Immobilize spell, as he might jump immediately when you use it, and he will be frozen mid-air, out of reach. Don't waste your Immobilize like that, and only use it after he has landed from an air jump. Most of his attacks don't do a lot of damage, except the slam down after he jumps from the rooftop. So if you see him on the rooftop, just wait for him to jump and dodge when you see him descending in the air. Then use the Immobilize and wreak havoc on him. After you defeat the wolf, progress on the main path of Bamboo Grove until you get to the Snake Trail Shrine. Here up the stairs on the right, you will find a character that will unlock the ability to use spirits. This is technically a transformation, but it's different from the normal transformation spell. The spirit transformations don't last long, you use them. They immediately do their attack and briefly end. I will get back to the transformation after we beat the boss that is guarding the second bell. The second boss is Guangmou. This is probably the easiest boss you will ever face. He doesn't do a lot of damage, but he does poison damage. Still, you can brute force your way through his boss with ease. If you constantly use the Immobilize spell, he won't even have time to touch you. Now, considering he is such an easy boss to beat, in my opinion he gives you the best spirit transformation in the entire game. Let's talk a bit about spirit transformations. This doesn't use mana or the resource that the normal transformation uses, so you can also use it in combination with all of your attacks and combos. The downside of these spirits is that you yourself transform, do the special attack, and then transform back to your form. This attack can, and most of the time, misses the target. Also, if you are damaged during this spirit transformation, it will damage your actual health. But the Guangmou transformation is a bit different from all the other ones. You transform, summon snakes, and then transform back. These snakes remain for some time and they auto-attack all the enemies. Not only do they do damage, but they also apply poison, which is damaged over time. Spirit transformations can also be upgraded, and this Guangmou transformation will increase the number of snakes the more you upgrade it. If you combine this with the Immobilize spell, you will do an insane amount of damage. And I really recommend you first do the Spirit spell, and then the Immobilize, as the snakes can be taken out by the boss attacks. Or if he does an area attack, he can take out all the snakes. The snakes are also really good at targeting enemies that jump or are out of reach. The only weakness of this spirit is that it's bad against rock-type enemies, so keep these things in mind. Now that we beat Guangmou, it's time to ring the second bell. The third bell boss is the Whiteclad Noble. This boss has 2 stages. Here are a few dangerous moves that you should really try to avoid. The first one is when he backs away from you and starts to swing his spear in waves. These waves don't do a lot of damage and are easy to avoid. The waves consist of multiple slashes in lines. Even if you get hit by them, the last move he does after the waves is the most punishable, as it can almost instantly kill you. As soon as he starts to shout, you have 2 seconds to start your dodge as he will thrust at you. This is a delayed attack, so you will probably need a few tries to get used to it. Immediately after this thrust, he will back away from you again and jump in the air. As soon as you see him in the air, either sprint sideways or dodge out of the way as he will throw his spear at you. This throw will probably take your entire health away and kill you instantly. Now, you can see this combination of attacks, the thrust and the throw, either one after the other, or sometimes he stops after the first one. There is also a version where he jumps in the air, and instead of throwing the spear, he does a thrust at you. You should try to go in for the attack as soon as he ends this big moves, as he will stop attacking for a few seconds. Another moveset that you should try to keep an eye out for, that can also end you pretty fast, when you see him lifting his arm with his spear, is when he will start the combo. The first 2 hits are fast, but don't do a lot of damage. The third one, where he jumps in the air, is the one to try to avoid, as that does a lot of damage. Another move to try to avoid is when he starts spinning on his spear, and then thrust at you. Finally, the most annoying move is the delayed spin. This move is very easy to see, as he will slowly take his spear behind and start to swing it. This one not only does it do a lot of damage, but it knocks you back. It's easy to see, but because of the delayed mechanic it will take a bit to get used to it. Now we start with the second phase. Here, as soon as the phase starts, he will do a thrust at you. Most of his attacks are pretty much the same as in the first stage, but he is a bit more aggressive now. The jump in the air and thrust move is now a move spear up and thrust. The wave move is now horizontal instead of vertical. He swings 2 times and then lunges at you. He will also do a new move where he runs back and does a water slam. For this entire boss fight, I would recommend you save up your normal and spirit transformations for the second phase. He will be more aggressive here, and by having a few more aces up your sleeve, it will give you an easier time to beat him. Now after you beat him, take the left path that is still filled with water and make your way to the bell. This bell will be guarded by 5 minion wolves. Beat them and ring the bell. This will be the last bell, and as soon as you hit the bell, you will be teleported into a secret area. Here you will face the secret boss Elder Jinchi, and after you beat him, you will unlock the best armor that will improve your Immobilize spell. Now before you even start the battle, unlock the shrine of the area and also buy the silk from the store. You will need silk to craft this new armor. Now let's get on with the fight. Elder Jinchi will start with a palm thrust similar to a Kamehameha from Dragon Ball. As soon as you see the light from his palm disappear and appear again, start dodging. After you dodge, I recommend you start with the spirit transformation to summon the snakes and immediately use the Immobilize spell for maximum damage. Moves to look out for are the hand spin that plunges into the ground. As soon as you see him spinning his hands back away, as this is an area damage. If you get hit by this, you will suffer lots of damage. You can also jump to avoid the damage. Another move will be when he puts his hands behind. He will follow with 2 slaps that can knock you back. He will also raise his hands and one of his legs, smashing the ground 2 times and then 1 slap. As soon as you see his leg up, dodge. If you distance yourself from him, he will jump to you, followed by a slap, and then another leg jump. At the end of every one of these combos, you will have a small window to get in and do some damage. After you take around 25% of his health, he will order his followers to run to you and explode. When you see them running at you and glowing, you can just sprint or keep dodging. You can also hit them, and when these minions die, they will actually heal you. But if you are caught by the explosion, it will be very hard to get out of the constant bombardment. When you get him to half of his health, he will start to levitate out of your reach, and his followers will run to him and heal him. If you leave them alone, he will get his entire health back. I recommend you circle around him and only kill the ones close to him. Don't chase further followers, as these guys will come from all directions, and if, just for a moment, get too far away, the ones from opposite will get close to him. When you kill these followers, they will also heal you. And that's pretty much it. Keep an eye out for those attacks, dodge them, and immediately go in and do some damage. Of course, keep using the Immobilize and transformation spells as well. After you defeat him, you will get the best armor in the entire game. This armor, if you use 2 pieces of it, will give additional damage when you break the Immobilize while doing damage to them. If you use all 4 pieces, you will also get a cooldown reduction and will be able to use the spell more often. The gloves also have a unique effect that directly triggers the final combo attack of the Evanescence skill. Basically, if you manage to immobilize enemies in the moment they are attacking you, you get a free insta-finisher on them. Now, to craft the armor you will need a lot of silk. Earlier, before we started the Elder Jinchi battle, we bought 2 silk from the shrine. You can always go back there and buy it if you haven't done it before the battle. There are also some chests with materials there. Elder Jinchi also has a chance to drop silk, but not all the time. If he doesn't drop any, don't worry, as in the next chapter you will find more silk than you will ever need. If he doesn't drop any silk, I recommend you craft the gloves for the unique effect, and 1 other piece to also get the 2-piece bonus. Elder Jinchi will also drop the fireproof mantle that will massively help during the final boss of chapter 1. And that is pretty much all you need to get the best start and the best build in Black Myth Wukong. As I mentioned earlier, I will show the skills I recommend after you progress further into the game, improving this build even more. We will of course awaken all the Immobilize tree, especially the final skill, the time bargain that massively extends the duration of the immobilization skill. This will consume a bit more mana, so the next one will be to maximize our mana. Then we will awaken the stamina tree, with the important one being the composure skill that allows you to continue light attacks without being interrupted when dodging. The last stamina skill, Vengeful Mirage, is also really good as it will leave an illusion that firstly makes the enemies attack it instead of you, and also give more damage to your arsenal as the illusion explodes, dealing damage to all the enemies around it. You will also be able to upgrade your armor later, but the sturdy skill from the martial arts tree will help you survive even more. Finally, we will start to invest into the thrust stance. I recommend the left side of it and make your way to the deadly dance. One last tip for the mid to late game will be to get the cloud patterned stone staff. This staff not only does it do good damage, but also gives defense. The more survivability you have, the more you will last longer to cast your immobilization spell. If you are interested in how to get this staff, let me know in the comments, and I will do a video about it. And that's it. If you liked this video, consider subscribing, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I am having a blast with the game, and I'm working on more advanced builds and guides. If you have any specific request, don't hesitate to ask in the comments.